Welcome to the FabuLous Lifestyle Radio Show, where we talk about food, fashion, finance, and foundations of life. We are live on KCAA Broadcasting Network, 10:50 a.m., following broadcasts in 102.3 FM and 106.5 FM. We are serving the world one household at a time. KCAA is affiliated with CNBC, NBC News, and NBC Sports. We are sponsored by Sheltered Studios, Fire Connect, and Kimiator Peak Performance Coaching.
Hello and welcome to number 12 for the finance segment in next month. So today I've got a very special guest. Our guest today is Paul Matamoros. He has 35 years of experience in construction, real estate, investing, architecture, technology, international business. Need I go on? He's extremely erudite and experienced individual, and he's got a vision for the future that we're going to talk about today. He is an impact investor manager and CEO for Metro Properties Holding Company, LLC. Welcome to FabuLous Lifestyle, Paul. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you very much. I view this as a great privilege. Thank you so very much for this moment.
All right, so I want to start off by asking, how did you get involved in construction and real estate industries? Obviously, that's something I have a background in, but I'm interested to hear your story.
Yes, well, thank you very much, Steve. Yeah, I think we do have some things in common because I did look at your video yesterday. Well, it all started, I was just a young baby, and my dad was a general contractor. My uncle as well, both my uncle and my dad were general contractors and home builders and remodelers. And back in the 70s in San Francisco, 60s and 70s, I should say, you could basically pick up a lot for, wow, a reasonable price, $15,000, $25,000 back then. So what my uncle and dad did is bought lots out there, and they started to build. My dad also would buy old rundown homes, remodel them, and flip them. I think the thing that they had the advantage on was that their sister, my aunt, was a real estate broker. So as a baby, I grew up in this industry. And that's what I remember. I remember in grammar school too, riding my bike over to my uncle's job sites, seeing them build. I was just a young boy, but there was just this dream that I had and this innate passion of building and things with real estate. And it looked fun to me. And then to top that off, my mom, she worked in the corporate arena. She worked for Transamerica Real Estate Corporation, the big pyramid. So back in 72, when they opened it up to the employees and their families, that had a profound impact on me. I remember we walked in there, they did the ribbon cutting, we walked in there, and my dad took me by the hand, and he took me in the elevator and took me all the way to the top. My sister and my mom stayed at the bottom. They didn't want to go to the top. But unbeknownst to me, that would have a huge impact on my view as far as skylines and commercial buildings, residential buildings, subconsciously and unconsciously. What I mean by that is I never would have thought of getting involved in this till later on in years as far as commercial real estate. And my company has given me the privilege to travel abroad to different countries. And I've done a lot of R&D on different cities and their skylines. In fact, I was telling Marie that right now I would be in Singapore and then heading to South Korea and then the Philippines, all on this R&D research and development that I have going on for this big vision that I want to be a part of, or that I am a part of here in Rio Rancho in Mexico. But basically that's what happened. I mean, I just grew up in it. My dad would take me to his job sites. In summer, I wanted to play sports, but he would always take me, and I'm so thankful for that. Later on in life, I was still in high school. I thought, you know what, I might as well get into the union. And so I served my apprenticeship through the San Francisco Carpenters Apprenticeship Program, one of the best in the nation, and graduated early. Then I had a private electrical apprenticeship program from Local 6. A good friend of mine, journeyman, took me under his wing. And it was just that I knew what I wanted to do in life at that early age. And then out of that, I started to take college courses, both in architecture and business. And then I found myself getting more involved in international business. I opened up my business. And a couple of years after that, or 10 years after that, I got my real estate license. But in the interim, I would do what my dad and uncle would do. I invested in lots, Lake Tahoe, Lake County, house across the bay. And so real estate's always been a big part of my family life. All my cousins, my aunts, uncles, and my mom and my dad. And I do owe a special thanks to my mom. She was such a great planner. I lost both my parents in the last couple of years, my mom in 2019. I miss her dearly, and then my father as well. But she was an excellent planner, always would mention to plan for the future, invest in, if it's not your company, in other companies. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about her. And that's why I'm investing my time, energy, and money into this city, because the mayor of Rio Rancho really wants this place to grow. Anyway, you're probably going to ask me to say.
That's fantastic. That's a good background. It's good to know that, the parents have such a huge, huge influence on their children, even if they don't know it, just by what we watch and what we observe. And, your parents, obviously their legacy lives on through you and the visions you have and what you're trying to do to impact a legacy that's going to live beyond you as well. It's interesting. You mentioned that your dad was doing flips way back in the 60s and 70s. So for you listeners out there, please understand the flip was not invented by HGTV in the early 2000s, okay? I mean, I did them back in the 90s. I was doing these things. So this is not a new thing. It's an older strategy. And I would also say that if you want to follow that blueprint, I would not recommend it. That's a very different way of doing things on the television. So you mentioned that going to the pyramid in San Francisco, which is obviously an iconic building. It's world famous, and it dating back to the early 70s. And it's obviously a logo really for Transamerica. It's what they built their brand around. And your view from the skyline. I had a similar experience when I was young. Now, my family was not in any way involved in real estate development or construction, and I wanted to get into construction but didn't know where to go or where to turn. But when I was, and I want to say junior high school or so, maybe just into high school, I went with my mom to Los Angeles because she didn't want to drive by herself to go down to L.A. because my sister had a job interview with the old Pac Bell telephone company that was based there in L.A. And while she was going through the whole day interview and training process, we went and explored downtown Los Angeles of the late 70s, early 80s, and they were just coming up with their skyscrapers were new back then. And that had a huge impact on me, and that's where I really fell in love with the urban the urban environment and the high rises and what a big city is. I grew up in a small town on the coast, so the biggest building in town was 2 stories. So, yeah. So a lot of commonality there. So you mentioned you had some other things you did. What kind of hobbies and interests do you do outside of real estate and development?
Well, fabulous question. I have always loved music as a young boy, and dance has always been something that has been, anyone that knows me, my family and my friends, dance has always been something huge to me. I came here, when I came here, this is the biggest flamenco institute outside of Spain. And so I basically enrolled in it, and I was a student there for 5 years, but that's one of my hobbies. That's the other thing that keeps me here in Rio Rancho. So art, music. I did used to have my house out in California, in San Francisco Bay Area. I planted a little micro vineyard. So wine has always been a huge interest for me. I had a little micro vineyard of Primitivo Zin, which is the equivalent of Zin, but the Italian style graphing of it. I'm more of a full-bodied wine person guy. I like food, but I love to travel. I love to meet different people. And, it might sound cliche, but really this industry that we're in, it is a people industry. And when someone goes out of their box and starts to really meet people outside, in this world, you get to really see that there are more, benefits to doing that. So you could add, say, benefit and interest to where you're living at.
Yep.
And so that's basically, the things that I like. Sports, I'm a bicyclist. I love to keep in shape. But anyway.
Oh yeah, that's some commonality. So the music, nature or God or whatever. But bicycling, I do road biking and I do mountain biking aggressively. I love it, and it's my favorite exercise and my favorite thing to do. So I wanted to then talk to you real quick, and you may not be able to answer all this before we have to go to a break, but you mentioned the Flamenco Institute, but must have been something else that drew you to New Mexico and Rio Rancho in particular. Coming out of the Bay Area, that is an entirely different world and a different culture. And you go from big, dense city, all tech-oriented type thing, to this really more rural, relaxed, just the beauty of the American Southwest and what nature did out there. And it's a whole different world. So what drew you to New Mexico and to Rio Rancho in particular?
Another excellent question. I came out here, my friend just asked me, Paul, can you help me move? My wife and I are going to move to New Mexico, Rio Rancho specifically. And at the time it was during the latter part of 2010, the Great Recession, and business wasn't all that great back then for a lot of companies, business individuals. And so I thought, this would be a great opportunity just to unplug and drive out there. I've traveled around, but never New Mexico. And my high school sweetheart, her mother's family comes from here. And I would have never thought that I'd be here. But anyway, I drive in here, and it was interesting when I was on 40 and passing Arizona. My uncle lives in Scottsdale, but passing Arizona going into New Mexico, the messes out there, it really, I felt like I was taken back in time. Like any moment there was going to be, and I mean this with all respect, cowboys and Indians, just driving to the side of our truck, the big truck. And as I was pulling into which is Albuquerque, and driving through Coors, it took me back. It took me to, if you ever travel to Spain and you get on the train from Barcelona to Madrid, when you get into Madrid, it's something similar. It's arid. It just reminded me of that. And then the Spanish streets and things like that. So it just took me back there. As I was driving in here and I was helping unload, I was looking around.
Hold on a second. We got to go to break, but hold that. I want to come back and pick up on that on your drive through Spain. This is FabuLous Lifestyle Radio. I'm your host, Steve Matley. We're talking to Paul Matamoros, and we're going to be right back after this short message. Go.
We are live on KCAA Broadcasting Network, 1050 AM, following broadcasts in 102.3 FM and 106.5 FM. We are serving over 5 million households in the Inland Empire, North County, San Diego, Orange County, and San Gabriel Valley. We are serving the world one household at a time. We are also in iHeart, Spotify, Tiki Live, Ustream, Apple, iTunes, and anywhere with your favorite podcast. KCAA is affiliated with CNBC, NBC News, and NBC Sports. We are sponsored by Sheltered Studios, Fire Up Connect, and Kim Yater Peak Performance Coaching.